These types of questions become easy once you learn the rules. Before we jump into the question, let's sort out the rules that we need to know first. Before the sine graph, you need to know some key coordinates, which I'm going to mark on now. So you should know that the y-coordinates are 1 and -1 at the turning points, and the coordinate of 180 and 360 where the graph crosses the x-axis. And by symmetry, you should also be able to work out that this point here is 270 and this point is 90. Another thing we need to be familiar with is the rules of transformations. So let's go through some of these rules. If the transformation is inside the bracket, we need to manipulate the x-coordinate. And we also need to change the sign that we've been given. So if there was a plus, we'd change that into a minus. And if we have a multiplication sign, that would become division. If the transformation is outside the brackets, then we need to manipulate the y-coordinate. And we also would use the original operation. So this just means that you use the operation given to you in the question. Now that we've got our rule sorted out, let's take a look at the question. So we've been given the graph y is equal to sine x, and we've got the point P marked on the graph. So from what we marked on earlier, we know that point P is 270, -1. So I'm just going to mark that next to the question. And now if we move on to the rest of the question, we know that the graph is translated to give the graph of y is equal to sine x plus 180 plus 4. And point P is then transformed to point R, and we want to find out the coordinates of R. So now that we know the rules, all we have to do is apply them to this question. We're given x plus 180 degrees, and because the 180 is inside the brackets, we know first that it applies to the x coordinate, and second that we need to change the sign of whatever's in the brackets. So for the x coordinate, I'm going to do 270 minus 180. And that's because this was originally a plus, so I'm going to change it to a minus, and that's going to give me 90. So I know that the x-coordinate of R is 90. And now I'm going to work out the y-coordinate. So for the y-coordinate, we know that we just need to apply whatever they've given to us in the question. So I'm just going to do -1 plus 4, because that's what they've given to us here outside the brackets, and that's going to give me 3. So now I know the x and y coordinates, so I'm just going to write that R is 90, 3. I hope that made sense. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.